Buddy, this is the College Football Show, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you get in the App Store. And you can go to their new online site and draft against people, www.fantasyelite.com. With us on today's show, the one, the only, Ben Pritchett and Jordan Case, our college football team. Davis is not going to be a thing tonight because he's spending some QT with his girl. So
Finally.
yeah, finally after 6 weeks. So
Yeah, it's been a while.
he's gonna be like going to Home Depot and stuff tomorrow, craft fairs, all that other stuff.
No, he's probably just gonna go wake up in the morning, set lineups, even though he said he's not gonna play, and then they're gonna go like on a hike and drink Starbucks and do all kinds of other random active things.
Okay.
Gross. TMI, Jordan.
Not like that. Well, I'm sure of that, but
So, Ben, you don't have Davis here to interfere with any of your hot takes, and you can say whatever you want about him. So I'll let you take it away.
No, I'll be gentle with the mini me out there. But no, guys, it's exciting to have just me here with Jordan. It's going to be interesting to see us kind of try to go back and forth. Neither of us have ever hosted one of these college football shows, but I know we have enough knowledge between the two of us to fill up the time and get this stuff going for you guys. So Jordan, when you look at these slates, what do you think? I mean, which one? We always do this every single show. We started off with which slate is our favorite, and what site do you like the best for that slate? So you kick us off there.
okay. I think out of all the slates, the FanDuel late slate is my favorite, just because of the Washington State and Arizona game, which is for some reason not on DraftKings. I don't know why, but it's really annoying. But I think early slate on FanDuel is also my favorite because the DraftKings pricing is really tough.
Yeah, that late slate FanDuel is just always so much fun. It can be a little hit or miss. It can be a little hit or miss, but it is always fun. Just because, like those 5 o'clock games that it seems like make it into the FanDuel slate that sometimes get omitted from the DraftKings or they throw it in the early, just really affect things. And in this case, we're talking about an Arizona Washington State game that has like a 70-something over under, and it's one of the highest of both slates the whole weekend. And it's just one of those games where you just want to use players from. Mm-hmm. And here we are stuck because we can't use them on DraftKings. And if you look at DraftKings pricing, like you said, it's rough this week. I sat down and I wrote the articles, and then I just decided, okay, now I'm going to try to make teams with my articles because I think that the articles don't do you a whole lot of good if you can't make teams off of them. And got to be honest, started making the DraftKings team, and it sucked.
I have yet to make one that I like because I feel like David Cobb is a must-play on every lineup, tournament, cash game, doesn't matter what site. I think you have to play him. So he was the first person I put in, and then I had to go cheap at quarterback, and I had to go cheap everywhere else because it's just really hard.
Yeah, this is where Davis would probably try to insert some sort of his strategy to all this, but I really think that if you're not going to throw a Matty Mock or a Brandon Allen into your DraftKings lineup, you're going to have a hard time putting together anything. If you put David Cobb in and you throw like a Brett Hundley, forget about Trayvon Boykin. If you throw a Brett Hundley who's 8,500 in there, then you have to go Matty Mock and pair him up with Bud Sasser, which is people are going to be really nervous about. But I'm not really as worried about it as I think a lot of people that have been burned by Mock. Although I don't know why you've been playing Mock the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I had such high hopes. I despise Missouri in every way possible. I'm a KU fan. It's a huge, used to be a big rivalry.
Yeah, it's over now, man. You need to let it burn, dude.
Yeah. Oh, I still hate them. I always will. But I really loved that team coming into this year, the offense anyways, for fantasy purposes especially, just because I thought Matty Mock was actually going to be good and that Bud Sasser was going to be a great receiver and that they were going to score all kinds of points. It happened the first 2 weeks, but since then it's just been nothing.
I think the thing is I'm not giving up hope on Mock or Bud Sasser. It's just they had such a dynamic receiving core last year. I mean, that team was ridiculous. With
LaDainian Washington is a stud.
Oh man, every receiver was 6'4", 6'5". Doral Green Beckham. They had LaDainian Washington and oh gosh, who was the other guy? But anyways,
was in a little bit.
They had 3 big wide receivers that just were matchup nightmares for everybody. Mm-hmm. So they still are pretty much the same kind of team, but they're not as big at receiver. They're not as experienced, and they're definitely not as athletic out there.
They're not nearly as good either.
Well, they're
not even close.
Athletic is like code for good. They're not as athletic, so they're not as good. But with Mock, it's just one of those guys where I don't know why they're not letting him run. He ran last year. Let the guy run. Let him get out, make 10, 15-yard gains with his feet. He gets hurt, big deal. You replace him.
Are they not letting him run, or is he just afraid to run because of that injury?
It could be a little bit of both.
It's probably a little bit psychological.
I'm not in their huddles to really get in this and diagnose. I do the best I can with Google and Twitter searching and stuff to try to piece some of this stuff together. Which we'll just cover one little news bit. Mark Gwindy, a Team FI guy and host of some of our NFL stuff, pointed out that Troy Williams may start for Washington against Arizona State Saturday. And his price is pretty cheap on DraftKings. Looks like he was a higher recruit, as Gwindy pointed out, than even JT Barrett. And so it's going to be interesting to see. He rushed for a touchdown last week against Oregon. So it'll be interesting to see if he's really a dual threat guy. Does he have that element to his game? And is he even a possible option? I'm not that interested, but
that could be something that interests me a little bit. His price is really low on DraftKings, like you said. He rushed 5 times for 28 yards last week and a touchdown.
Yeah, so you'd be getting him basically thinking that Arizona State's defense is bad, which they're not good, but they really let Hundley take it to him. And so
Hundley is incredible.
Hundley's a lot better. We're talking about not the same kind of player. But here, I want to play a game real quick before we dive into the slate. We're going to do over or under, and this will kind of give us a gauge of where me and Jordan are at as it comes to these games. Like, where do we feel? Are these lines accurate, and should we even be targeting these teams, or is it real? Or is it false, basically? So you tell me, Jordan, is it over or under? So we're going to start this one off with I think is one of the closer ones to deal with. It's North Carolina at Virginia. Over under is 64.5. It's grown to 65 some places.
See, I'm seeing that it's opened up at 66.5 and now it's down.
Okay, well there you go.
But I still think under. That Virginia defense is no joke. North Carolina offense is good for sure, but the Virginia offense isn't good. Even the North Carolina defense is so bad. I still think it'll be the under.
Yeah, and Elijah Hood, I think, is
60-point range.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Elijah Hood's going to miss that game. Virginia's defense is sick. Their offense is bad. If you're going to get in this game, I think you need Kevin Parks. He's pretty much the only guy I would even look at.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at another one. How about, which I think is going to be a heavily targeted game for a lot of fantasy players, and that's going to be UCLA Colorado. Star opened at 69.5. Looks like it's pushing down to 68.5, 67 some places.
I'll take the over on that.
That one's going to depend on Colorado.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be all Colorado.
UCLA is favored for 54, 27, 30, 41 points. Yeah. I'll take the over on UCLA's projection, which is 41, if I did my math right.
Okay. So, but you're not going to say that you're not going to come right out and own up to this and say it's going to
that might just be a total blowout.
I'm totally with you. I think we're totally in agreement there. I think Colorado's defense proved they're not very good last week, and UCLA. But UCLA is unpredictable. This offense is unpredictable. The only thing that's been predictable this year is Paul Perkins for UCLA. Paul Perkins,
and he is playing
predictably awesome. Gonna play great. You can't depend on Jordan Payton. You can't really depend on Brett Hundley for his price. I have no problems using him. He's a great play, but it's just Like nothing's in stone except for Paul Perkins being good. But now we have to deal with Paul Perkins' injury. So
It's a wrist injury. How much can that affect a running back?
fumbles.
True, he can always just carry with the offhand though.
Yeah.
Do you know what wrist it is?
No, I have no idea.
Oh.
Now,
I'm
I
sure
know
he will be just fine.
if they think he's fine enough to play with their other running back options, then I'm sure he's fine.
What was up with his involvement in the passing game last week?
It's kind of one of those things where they
had to just out of the blue. He just happened to score 2 touchdowns because I don't think he's ever had a receiving touchdown before in his career.
It's kind of like Buck Allen is. I mean, it's kind of you want to get the ball into your playmaker's hands, and Paul Perkins has proved he's their playmaker. And so, like when Buck Allen's struggling running the ball, they throw it to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was tilting because I had a lot of Jordan Payton last week.
So did I. Every lineup, I think.
And when he was dumping it off to Paul Perkins, it's like you want to shake your TV and say, "F this." But all right, well, I think that's pretty good. Let's do one other one. Let's do a low one before we move on. How about Mississippi, Ole Miss at LSU in Death Valley? It's a 53.5. Or I'm sorry, 44.
Okay.
44. And it's moved up to 45 with Ole Miss only favored by 3.5, which I think is pretty crazy. So on this one, instead of doing the over-under, let's do who you think's going to win.
Ooh.
Ole Miss on the road against LSU. Ole Miss undefeated, ranked number 3 in the country, I believe, versus LSU, who's 24th, I believe.
I don't know about that one. I think LSU has a really nice chance to win this football game.
This is a trap game for Ole Miss. It really is. I mean,
is.
We pushed them all the way to the top in the nation.
They are number 3. That is just ridiculous for an offense that struggles so much.
Yeah, the defense is legit though. That front seven is tough, and
they're giving up 280 yards on the ground, 290.
The way
overall.
LSU's been playing it on offense, it's hard to say. I mean, they did well against Kentucky, but it was Kentucky. It's not Ole Miss. This is a different kind of game. So,
Kentucky is good. I'll give them that. They're a much improved team over last year.
Let's do one more game, which I think people should really focus on. I think is very important. Is Old Dominion versus Western Kentucky.
Wow.
It's a 77 right now.
Yes, it's the highest.
Kentucky minus 13.
It's the highest of the slate.
Man, I think Vegas got that one pretty close. I might just take the over because I think that game, it could turn into a shootout. But what has been up with Old Dominion's receivers?
Yeah, they played some tougher defenses. And we talked about this with Austin Vaughn when I was writing up the Old Dominion team. Heineke has now become the golden boy in NFL scout circles. If you've been looking on the internet, if you've been reading some of what they look for in college people, they are like falling in love with this guy. And there are going to be a lot of scouts at this game. So if you want to play narrative street on this game, there could be some of that. So who knows? Heineke could have just an amazing game. But
did you write up Heineke?
No, I did not.
Okay,
I did not. He's not. He's a great play.
I should have put him in the cheat sheets. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
it's rolled right over his name.
Yeah, it's a good play.
You can still do it. I'll send out the email and make sure that people know to include Heineke in the cheat sheet.
Yeah, he's definitely in play.
Yeah, and I didn't write him up because I try to restrict to not too many options just because it gets a little cluttered in there if you do that.
There are a lot of options in this early slate on FanDuel.
I'd rather have Doty if you just measure each up to each other, just because I think Doty's more consistent and Heineke is great, but like you said,
that's
struggles.
True. Not taking price into a factor, but if you're taking price, Heineke is $700 cheaper, so that's the difference between playing, I don't know, Randall Cobb and having to come down to
Randall Cobb.
Or
you're going to grab a Packer and put him in your lineup?
Sorry, David Cobb.
Jeez, dude.
And have to play
Randall Cobb.
Kenneth Dixon.
Randall Cobb is pretty good too.
Yeah, he'd probably be more than you could afford on him.
No, that's the difference between playing David Cobb and Kenneth Dixon, which I think is a pretty big jump.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have that much trouble, but we'll get into that here in a second. Let's go ahead and dive into the early rankings and your cheat sheets there, Jordan, and kind of dig into this a little bit more. I see a blaring number one quarterback for FanDuel, and I think it's Trayvon Boykin.
Did you say a blaring?
Yes, it's loud.
Glaring.
You mean a glaring?
Yes, that's what I meant. But blaring because it's
Right.
glaring and
Right.
blazing
And
hot
caring. He cares.
and raring. Anyways, Boykin to me is the number one play. I think the other guys kind of branch off from there, and they could have just as good a games, but Boykin, the way he's playing and the way TCU's playing, the way Texas Tech's defense is just falling apart. I think it's clear cut. He's great play for 8,400 on FanDuel.
I totally agree with that. I think he is the number one play. I don't think it's clear cut by any means, but that they refuse to price him correctly on FanDuel still, even after he's had not great games, but solid games. Even against the tough Baylor defense, he put up 20 points.
No,
I
completely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah, like they just I don't know.
Who's
DraftKings has it right.
Who's another one of these high price guys that you like on the early slate?
I was messing around earlier with lineups, and I fit Dak Prescott in, and I didn't hate the lineup.
Whoa.
And I think his automatic 30 points is just hard to come by, and especially with this year with Raheem Cato being whatever he's doing, and then the tough matchups that have happened every week. Dak Prescott is just always a safe option, especially against a not good Kentucky defense. He's put up at least 30 points every game this year except for one. So
he definitely is last year there were multiple guys like Manziel and Jordan Lynch.
And he's also in the running for the Heisman, so they're going to just let him sling the ball around, do whatever he wants, rush for 185 yards if he wants to.
I'd let him do whatever he wants too. The guy's a sick beast.
He is last year's Marcus Mariota.
I think he's a little bit more dynamic in the way that he runs because he's getting like more yardage on the ground.
That's a hot take.
I just think he is. I mean, you're talking about a guy who gets 20, 30 yards a carry, not just has to depend on 80-yard runs that randomly happen.
What was Mariota's numbers last year were incredible on the ground anyways, and he was just ridiculous.
Yeah, he went on some bad beats too. I haven't seen Dak Prescott struggle at all this season.
No. I think the SEC is a little watered down this season too.
Oh my! Are you?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
No, they are not like the elite caliber they have been in the past years. Like Alabama isn't as good. LSU just now cracked the top 25, which is saying something about what the public thinks of them, that they're not incredible. Ole Miss is overrated. Like, Mississippi State is the best team in the SEC, which is weird.
Okay, Jordan.
Yeah, I don't...
Okay. This is one of those Midwest takes.
Yeah, this is where we cut Jordan off.
Get your Southern homerism out of here.
In the penalty
You're talking
box.
about...
Big 12 is better than the SEC.
Alabama just beat A&M 59-0.
A&M's defense is bad.
Okay, I understand that, but still 59-0. You also have two teams that typically aren't in it that are now in the mix too. Mm-hmm. This might be the best the SEC West has ever been.
Oh,
yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think somebody brought up in the chat who I think is more of a play that I would be more inclined to do over a Dak Prescott, and that's just because of price on FanDuel, and that's Drew Hare for Northern Illinois. So you're not talking about a guy who has the consistent track record, but you're talking about a guy who could pull off the same kind of numbers, cheaper price against a much, much worse defense. So
Eastern Michigan might be the worst defense in all of college football.
Yeah, it's right there.
For like the past 5 years.
It's right there. And I have targeted Eastern Michigan one time this year, and they burned me. But I don't think Northern Illinois, Hare's proven that he can handle it. He throws fine. He's probably as good a passer, if not better, than Jordan Lynch was. And he finally had a breakout running game, which I think is very important because I pointed out a stat on my Twitter feed that I stole off of the Northern Illinois website, and that was they are 30-0 since 2010 where they've run the ball 45 or more times. Wow. So to see this team as they get Stingley rolling, he's now looking like he was healthy at his first 100-yard game of the year. You've had his first 20-carry game of the year. A big boy is going to just be able to run all over Eastern Michigan because Eastern Michigan's size is not going to be able to handle a 270-pound running back with speed. So I'm interested to see how Hare and Stingley perform now that they're going to start seeking to push that run. And Deron Brown, that wide receiver for them, has just been awesome, and he's priced perfectly on FanDuel for me,
Yeah.
especially if you're pairing them up.
I don't know if I'm all in on Deron Brown because I've made a couple lineups with him, and I just look at his name. Eh. But one thing I do like is looking at Drew Hare's game log. He's only played 2 really bad defenses this year in Miami of Ohio and UNLV, and he went for 34.8 FanDuel points at 43.7. All the other defenses he's faced, except for Kentucky, have been good defenses. And I don't know what happened in the Kentucky game, if that was just bad game flow or what, but he only put up 7 points against them. But they were good defenses, and he had a respectable
SEC.
fantasy game.
SEC.
They're okay, though. Like, he put up 21 against Northwestern, which is a surprisingly good defense, 15 against Arkansas, and 19 against Central Michigan. And those are all 3 decent defenses, at least.
Yeah, let's move on. I think that pretty much sums up where we're at. And then if you want to get into Old Dominion, Western Kentucky game for FanDuel, then go for it. But that's what we're talking about when we're talking about DraftKings difficulty here. Who do we talk about that was a DraftKings option?
None of them.
None of them.
I
so
think,
you're starting yourself off on a good spot. It's Brett Hundley for me.
And I think Tyrone Swoops, or however you say it, is going to be the guy that I look to on DraftKings for both salary relief and just a quarterback spot. He's only 6,200. K-State isn't elite on the defensive side of the ball. They are good. They're well coached, of course. But he put up 34 on OU, and 34 on Iowa State. So those are both decent defenses. OU is above average, much above average. So I think Swoops is capable of rushing for 130 yards and throwing for 300 yards.
He's definitely more comfortable in that offense when they're
reading.
And I think it's helped Malcolm Brown a little bit too, who's super cheap on DraftKings as well. I think he's down in the 3,000 range. But I have a little bit more faith in Kansas State's defense than you do.
I don't not have faith in them. I just think that Swoops is good enough. He can get to them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it's a safe play, kind of, if you want to. If you're going to go with him over Paxton Lynch, what's his price compared to Paxton Lynch's?
He is 62 and Paxton Lynch is 68.
So
and
if
those
you're
happen to be the 2 guys that I put in the DraftKings lineup that I made earlier today.
You did them together?
Yeah.
I
don't know if I like it or not, but
I was talking to Laffy, and I was helping him make a lineup, and we fell into, because he likes to play on DraftKings more than anything, so we started to fall into our roster making process, and it wound up being Paxton Lynch and Matty Mock as the quarterbacks as we were finishing, and I was like, this is just awful, dude. You need to go
I will not play Matty Mock.
You need to go play on FanDuel, man. But no, I mean, it's possible. You're going to have to get one of these guys, like you said, Swopes, Paxton Lynch. You're going to have to get a Matty Mock. Jacquez Johnson for FAU at Marshall. They have the no-fly zone, which I brought up. That secondary has been really good. And
they are good.
Yeah, they have stopped some good quarterbacks, or some good offenses, I should say. And so I'm a little worried there, but Johnson can run, and I think that kind of offsets the worry that I have with the passing.
I mean, that run defense hasn't been bad either. Only giving up 135 yards a game on the ground.
No, they've been great. And considering that they are still scoring at a pretty good rate, that's pretty impressive.
They've also played nobody.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's why you can't really put it on too high of regards, because they haven't. Although I think MTSU is pretty good. But
that's
that might be a little biased.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. All right, let's move on to running backs. So we both agree David Cobb's the number 1 play as a running back.
Clear cut.
Illinois is terrible. They allow 200 yards to everybody, top backs, backup backs, everybody. So I think that's a pretty evident play. We both know, everybody knows, Amir Abdullah and Melvin Gordon are awesome running backs, and they can destroy anybody. So if you want to put those guys in, go for it. It's just make sure that you're nailing the other pieces around him. And if you go a little cheaper with a guy like David Cobb, I feel like that lets you have a little bit of leeway with having a little bit more talented, more proven receivers or quarterback, and a little bit safer. What do you think there, Jordan, on that take?
Yeah, I think you're completely right on that. I'm not as high on Amir Abdullah this week. I mean, I know he's the second best running back in the country. He's going to get his. But I don't know. He's not worth. I would rather pay up the extra 700 to get Melvin Gordon in my lineup against Maryland, who's giving up almost 200 yards on the ground.
Yeah, I pointed out with
Yeah,
Amir Abdullah,
198.
he had 4 rushing touchdowns last week, with all were within 1 yard.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to note, because if you watched him last year, he didn't get those carries, and so it's Amani Cross got those carries. So it's fun to see him get the important carries, the bulk carries, the passing catches. I mean, he's just an all-encompassing type back, which is really awesome to have. And Rutgers isn't a very good defense. They got way exposed last week by Ohio State. So.
Yeah.
All right, so middle tier, I think it's Kevin Parks. Jordan James isn't going to be available, so I think Kevin Parks is the clear-cut middle tier guy for me.
Who's not going to be available?
Jordan James for UCLA.
Really?
It's Paul Perkins.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, Paul
That
Perkins.
makes me want to play.
Paul Perkins is starting, so he's instantly in play. If you're considering Jordan James, don't do that. I wrote him up. It's not going to be an option, and it was a good option too, but too bad for us. It's not. You can't do it. So let's look at the lower priced options, because I think that's going to be important, especially on DraftKings. As far as running back goes, I don't see a whole lot. I think you're going to have to go wide receiver on DraftKings, but I do love, and I think Jordan, you'll probably agree with me on this. Since you said EMU has the worst defense in the country, Cameron Stingley is a steal at 5,200. Lets you do whatever you want with your wide receivers. Lets you have Cobb, Boykin, whatever you really want to do with your FanDuel team. Stingley is the route to go to as your second running back.
You see, I really like the idea of the play, but I just don't know how many touches he's going to get.
I think he'll be
last
fine.
week he got 23, but the 4 weeks before that he had 13, 10, 10, and 17.
Well, he's been struggling with injuries, though. I mean, they rushed him back because they had no ground game, and he plodded around. And you're talking about a big guy, and you know how big guys work. When you hobble up a big guy, it makes them really difficult they can't move as well, and they can't play as well. I mean, look at what it did to Yao Ming. It took Yao Ming's career and destroyed it. I mean, you hobble up a big man. I mean, that's just the way it is. You hobble up a big man, they're done. All right, let's move on. We need to stay on the course. We're getting way behind. Let's look. Who is your top wide receiver? High price, medium price, low priced. Pick a guy. This is your guy, and I'm going to pick a guy, and I'll pick a guy whatever tier you're in, and we'll battle it out.
I can pick any guy on the slate.
Pick any guy on the slate.
Kevin White.
Okay.
Not
you little bastard.
He's the best wide receiver in all of college football. It's just not even close.
You're such an asshole.
What is his lowest productive game was 123 yards and 1 touchdown against Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And on 13 reception.
Yeah, it was a good play. I should have set you up quite so perfectly like that.
You can't beat Kevin White. I'm going to have a lineup with him where I go cheaper at quarterback, or I do something different to get him in, just because he is unstoppable right now.
Yeah,
Baylor's a good defense, and he went for 29 FanDuel points on them.
We got a quick question. Let's do some of these questions that people are asking before we forget them. Cobb over Devin Johnson's Cobb for me. What do you think, Jordan?
Agreed.
Jonathan Williams is in play against UAB. I'm just a big Alex Collins fan. They both are great options, and they both could have good games. You remember what they did to Texas Tech together. I think
play them in the same lineup, and they could both have a great game in a GPP. I wouldn't do it in cash, but in a GPP, they could both go for 20 to 25 points, and if you hit both of those, you're set.
Williams is a little bit more expensive on both sites, so he also would.
He's also a lot safer.
He's a lot safer because he finds the end zone more than Alex Collins does. But they don't rotate. They don't rotate as Williams is the red zone back. That's not how they work. They rotate based on carries. So once Collins gets, X amount of carries, they bring in Williams. And once Williams gets X amount of carries. So you're sitting there watching the Arkansas game, you will do this if you have one of these players. You'll be like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, when's Williams going to go out? Okay, Williams is out. All right. Now I get my 6 carries of Alex Collins, because that's just the way they will operate. And then you're just praying that he busts that one into the end zone, or however it works. But we got a question about BJ Catalon.
Yes.
I think we're both in
play.
we're both in agreement. He's definitely in play. It just needs more touches, man.
Yeah.
He has to have more touches. If they're going to give him 20 carries, if I could be assured right now that Catalan was going to get 20 carries, he'd be on all my teams.
The TCU coaching staff they know what's going on. He got 19 carries against SMU, and that's just as bad of a rush defense as Texas Tech. So I think he might just get 15 to 20 carries again. He's never going to get more than probably 18 to 20. We're not going to see the 25 to 30 touches that we want out of Workhorse back, but he's going to be productive with whatever touches he gets. He gets red zone touches. He's always in play for me.
They need TCU to get out in front early like they did against
Oh,
SMU.
they will.
Yeah, they need to get out early and for Catalan. Now, I think that would be bad for Boykin if they got out early.
I don't know about that.
Especially defensively, because if they score a lot defensively or through the punt return game or things like that, it could get murky and they pull Boykin at halftime or something.
Nah, they got.
I don't know, man.
If they got up early on SMU and he still went for 45 points, it was his biggest game of the year. Threw for 4 touchdowns, rushed for 2.
No, I'm with you. I think we just talked about Boykin's the play. I'm just saying that there is some risk there of.
Ben is hedging, so if Boykin does not have a good game, he can say, "I told you."
No. I'm hedging if Boykin doesn't have a good game because they blew him out. I'm hedging. Now, if he has a bad game and they don't blow him out, then that you can blame that on me. I'll take that.
Okay.
All right, we have Antonio Vaughn versus Pascal. So we're dealing with the ODU wide receivers here. I'm a Pascal fan because he's a bigger, more possession type guy. Vaughn has been the touchdown guy early in the season, but he's fallen off like so bad lately that I'm a little bit untrustworthy of him because of his small stature and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but I think he bounces back.
That confuses me that Vaughn is the touchdown guy in that situation.
Yeah, it's weird. And we might be seeing some of that regression to the mean, like you're seeing his stats come back down to reality. But with that said, Western Kentucky's pass defense is just awful.
So bad.
Yeah, so you can't really – they're both in play, and they're both good plays.
I think I'd rather have Pascal.
I think Vaughn has the better chance for, like, if you're wanting to shoot for the moon and go for that guy that could get 180 yards receiving, I think that's Vaughn. If you're going for the guy that's going to get 10 catches and 100 yards and maybe 2 touchdowns, then that's Pascal. So, all right, so you chose, we got to answer this thing. So you've given me time to think about it.
We have one more, Josh Robinson or Leon Allen.
Gosh, that's a hard question. That's a really hard question because as much as I want to like Leon Allen, he's losing that job. And if you read anything, the Western Kentucky coaching staff this week, they were basically saying, we need to take the pressure off of Doty, and it has to come in the ground game. And I have not been happy with the ground game, blah, 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 blah. And they've been pushing in that backup. I want to say his name's like Mays or something. They've been pushing in the guy behind Leon Allen, and he's had a couple of good games. And Allen's been slowly falling off. And I almost wrote up Allen. I did write him up. He was one of those fringy guys that was about to not make the write-up, wound up making it just because I think that he has that kind of upside because Old Dominion's so bad.
Did you tell him that he was on the fringe?
Did I tell Alan that he was on the fringe? No, it was blaring that he was.
Blaring.
The blaring mistake.
The other guy is Anthony Wales. And
yes, Wales. That's what it was.
Against Navy, he had 14 carries, and against UAB, he had 14 carries. But those are his only double-digit carries of the year.
But it's come recently, though, his last 3 games.
It was, And then the last week, he went back down to 7. And Leon Allen, I think he had, 12 or 14?
Nothing. It was like 10, 12 carries.
Yeah. But Anthony Wales had 138 yards and 3 touchdowns against UAB, which, I mean, they're not a good rush defense, but that should have been Leon Allen.
And did you hear what he just said? You said against UAB?
Yeah.
So all you people thinking about Arkansas running backs, they let a backup running back for Western Kentucky rush for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. That's one of those games where I am worried about the blowout potential early, and that they're going to be just trying to vent some of that frustration and just blow and just have just unbelievable games. All right, my guy is going to be, we're going to go with a guy that's been good to me all year, Tony Lippett. So my Lippett versus your White, you should feel very comfortable.
Oh, yeah. I'm not huge on Tony Lippett against Michigan.
Where you're at.
I mean, it's a rivalry game, so there's gonna be points scored in that game. What
Yeah.
is?
We should do points per dollar spent or something because you're just going to destroy me on that stuff.
Oh, the over/under in that game is 50, and Michigan State is favored by 17, and that is not gonna happen.
What, you don't
I
think they're
don't
going to beat them by 17?
know.
I think I'm with you on that. I think that stays a little closer. But I think that one of these Michigan State options is going to emerge and have just a big game, whether it's
I don't think
Langford.
there's any way that game hits 50 points total either.
Hey Jordan.
I think it ends like 17-10 or something like that.
Hey Jordan.
What's up?
Lip it. Lip it good.
Oh man. Okay,
You
let's
are the
look.
worst.
Let's look at cheap receivers, which I think this is something you need to concentrate on as a DraftKings player for this early slate. Is you need to nail one of these or two or three of these cheap receivers that I have listed in the write-up. Did you add any cheap receiver to the cheat sheets there, Jordan?
I really couldn't find a whole lot. I mean, I added Jamion Lewis, who he's back this week.
Mm-hmm.
He's not super cheap. He's 5,500.
But beyond that, it was just kind of the same. See, this is where you're going to have to pay for all the other stuff you're doing in your DraftKings lineup because it's about impossible to do it otherwise. And that's going to be, you're going to need a guy like Wilson and pray that, especially if you're rostering Dak Prescott, but you're going to need a guy like Wilson and pray that he gets a touchdown again. Sasser, I think, has an awesome matchup and for DraftKings price 4,100, I think he's near must play. And just deal with it. I think you just got to deal with it and bite it and do it. Tevin Jones has had two good games in a row, 70 yards, touchdown in each game. SMU, terrible. So that's a good option. But here, let's talk about Funchess. So we saw last week with Funchess, he looked good. Still has to depend on Gardner. But I think even with Gardner's sucky play, you got a guy of Funchess's caliber could get behind Michigan State and be a matchup nightmare for them. Just because that's what he has done all season with them knowing that he's the only option in the Michigan passing game. What do you think, Jordan?
I want nothing to do with that Michigan offense.
It's so cheap. He's so cheap.
Maybe on DraftKings, just because he is so stupidly cheap for 4,200. That may be there, but definitely not on FanDuel. Michigan State's only giving up 192 yards through the air. Like, they're a top 15 pass defense. They play in the Big Ten, so that's maybe a little bit skewed because they like the ground and pound. But I don't know. That Michigan offense just hasn't been good.
Yeah,
Not my cup of tea.
last year about this time of the year, well, maybe it was a little bit later, that we were preparing for a draft street, a big score championship for college football. And we were discussing all the plays. It was me and David, and we were reminiscing. And I brought up, I liked Devin Gardner and, who was the wide receiver?
Gallon.
Jeremy Gallon.
Jeremy Gallon, yes. I like Jeremy Gallon, Devin Gardner. I caught so much heat because it was just one of those plays where they'd been sucking, and I was like, let's just do it. I think that they're going to have a good game. And I didn't play him in the big score because I got talked down off of it. I wrote him up and everything. And then David goes into the big score and plays
Gallon.
Devin Gardner and Jeremy Gallon lineup, and it cashes like up in the top tier of the whole competition.
Oh.
And it was just, that was tilting.
It was the last lineup that I put in.
And this is kind of one of those situations where rivalry game, the Funchess element, it just could happen is what I'm saying. I just think it could happen. And for 4,200, he's not going to have a Gallon game that a Gallon had against Ohio State. It's just that's not going to happen. But he could have like a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, and 70, 80, 100 yards. It's possible.
Yeah, I completely punted all of the big college football tournaments last year on Draft Street and FanDuel. I won like 2 qualifiers to get into the FanDuel with like the super late games, late night games on FanDuel. I won the qualifiers to them, and then I got in there and I played Taj Boyd, who went for like 40 in the big FanDuel tournament, and then got nothing else. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I like panicked my lineups in or something. It was just bad.
Hell, you got to be on top of it with those things and get good at multi-roster management type things.
I did not know how to make a lineup last year. I was so confused.
Hey, man, I had trouble doing the multi-roster stuff when I was just making one lineup, and then now I've become good at multi-roster management and not making good head-to-head lineups. So I've pretty much I need to
different.
work on my head-to-head game and get back in the head-to-head game because there's a lot of money to be made there.
That is one thing that I've learned from living with Davis. If there is one positive out of it, it is like through osmosis or something, I have become better at DFS. Like just lineup construction, reading Vegas, everything. Like he hasn't even really taught me anything. It's just like being around him and listening to him talk. I've just gotten better at it because he is legit.
Gosh, I'm so glad he is not on.
Yeah,
the
me
show.
too.
Oh
My
yeah, I
goodness.
wouldn't say that if he was here. He's not listening.
Oh,
That's
I would
kind.
never say that to his face.
Yeah,
No.
no, that's that's kind of how Ben has been successful, though.
what? Be around you?
Yeah,
Yeah. You're the reason why I win everything that I win. Thank you, David.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you for getting me into DFS, by the way.
No problem.
Okay,
Oh, wait. That was me getting you into DFS.
Ben did get me into DFS, but
way.
I'm the one who won Ben $40,000. So we'll call it even.
Whatever. Okay, let's do a little tight end talk. Let's go into our little tight end corner and talk about tight ends. I don't see a whole lot to love. I'm just going to pretty much punt it. I think that they're good options. Max Williams, AJ Derby, Alan Cross, Henry. I mean, just there are good options. It's just I'm not willing to pay the price. I might pay the price for Williams on FanDuel or
that's what I was about to say.
Derby on FanDuel, Cross on DraftKings, but those are Cross is pretty much a min play. So Alan Cross from Memphis, if you're wondering who that is. But I made teams. I made 1 DraftKings and 4 FanDuel at the moment, and they all have Malcolm Johnson on DraftKings and McManus on all the FanDuel.
McManus is definitely, if you want to punt your FanDuel lineups or your FanDuel tight end, play McManus because he is incredibly good at football. I think he might be better than Fronopful or however you say that. Just at the tight end position, he's talented. He catches passes. He catches touchdowns.
Fronaple.
Frothenopple.
Frothenopple. Yep, that's it. Frothenopple is definitely what we're going with from now on.
Okay. All right, Jordan, I think you're doing a great job. I think this show is going without a hitch.
I think so, but we haven't talked about the late slate at all, so we should probably do that.
Oh, forget the late slate. Here's how you play the late slate. You do
Arizona State, Washington. And you don't play on DraftKings.
And you don't play on DraftKings. Man, we are like right there with each other. No, I think you're right. It's start on FanDuel and get that one squared away, and it's going to be pretty easy for you. Yeah. Just load up. But let's not look at FanDuel. Let's make it harder on ourselves, and you need to look at DraftKings. And so that means you cannot use the Washington State Arizona game,
which is dumb.
We've established that. But let's look at who I think is the top option. You tell me what you think. I think Nick Marshall is the top option at quarterback. 8,100. He's been running the ball great. And he's facing a South Carolina defense that still has holes. It's better than I think it was at the beginning of the season, but it still has holes. And so you're talking about a 100-yard rushing quarterback with a guy like DeQuell Williams to throw the ball to. Was in Heisman conversations last year. I think he's just an easy play at 8,100. What do you think?
Yeah.
At home.
I think you're pretty dead on about that. They have a 42 team total right now, which is plenty for Nick Marshall to get his production through the air and on the ground. He's gone 100 yards in 3 straight games. He's super safe from a fantasy point perspective. I like Cody Fajardo a lot, but for the price, I think Nick Marshall's the play. But my second quarterback on DraftKings is where I'm really struggling because I do not know who to play.
Yeah, I think for me, it's Garrett Grayson. I think you go with Colorado State versus Wyoming, and you go Grayson. I haven't tried to wiggle with it and see if I can get Higgins in there with him. But I've been focusing on this early slate too much. But a Nick Marshall, Garrett Grayson, Higgins, and some Cameron Artis-Payne in there would be pretty sweet if you could pull it off.
I'm not so high on Grayson. He's just his only production is coming from Rashard Higgins.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, if Rashard Higgins has a big game, that's great. you're still not going to get that much out of Garrett Grayson. His biggest score this year. Okay, 36 against whoever UCB
Whoa,
is.
that is so low. UC California Davis.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
That's Davis's favorite school.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
What is
I
the
think
over-under on that's only 51, and Nevada's a 3-point favorite.
I don't care that Higgins is his only option. Higgins catches 3 touchdowns a game. You got a quarterback who's going to throw 3 touchdowns a game. What are you worried about? Like, I think that's. I think you're overthinking it there if you're just worried that he's only throwing to Higgins. Well, if you pair Grayson with Higgins on DraftKings where Grayson's cheaper, it's a good play.
Yeah, I looked at the wrong over-under for that game. Vegas does like Colorado State, so I'm a Vegas whore. So if Vegas likes it, I like it, I guess.
Oh, so now we like Grayson?
I don't necessarily like him, but for that price point, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think their offense. I think CSU Rams. Pete Jennings would probably back us up on this one. Oh yeah, he would back us up on these guys because he's probably watched more of this,
yes,
team.
Ben and Yahtzee.
He's probably watched more of this team than any of us have combined. So I don't know how he feels about D Hart because I think that's the one big question mark. But I have no worries with Grayson and Higgins against Wyoming at home, especially with them trying to play for that division and play for the ultimate conference championship and make it to a good bowl. But as it pertains to any of these other quarterbacks, do you see anybody you like? I mean, you said you're struggling. I hate Pete Thomas, but I ranked him. I have a funny story about AJ Long. Me and David just figured out AJ Long played at our rival high school growing up, and we went to a small Christian school. He went to a small Christian school just down the road, and they used to just beat the mess out of us in sports.
Not in soccer.
Not in soccer. No, we beat them in soccer. we definitely beat them in soccer. Every year we whoop them in soccer.
And we beat them that one year in basketball my junior year.
They had
soccer
girls
is
on
the
their
Christian
team.
School sport. It really is.
They had girls on their team. But yeah, well, so did we, didn't we? For a couple
I
years.
had girls on my high school soccer team, and they were good.
Yeah, we
back in the day. Now they actually have a girls team and a guys team. It's crazy. But no, we did have a big basketball victory when I scored 30 points.
Okay, here's a little off track. I went to a 1A high school here in Kansas, and we had girls on our soccer team up until my sophomore year. My junior year, they switched it over so the girls had their own team. And a 1A high school team with like 13 girls in the entire team was like 30 seconds away from going to state, but they got scored on in like the 79th minute because there's only 80 minutes in high school soccer.
Yeah.
And then they lost in overtime.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man,
cool
Jordan,
story.
It was like almost amazing.
Cool story, bro.
That is like
thanks,
the
man.
worst story you've ever told.
I'm a horrible storyteller.
Yeah, I can tell.
You and Ben both.
Hey, I have a worse soccer beat than that, but we won't get into that. But it involved going to PKs in the regional championship or district championship.
It was regional,
and I was the best PK kicker on the team, and they didn't call my number.
I played football.
I played both football.
I played football.
Where do you think my love from soccer came from?
How did you play both?
We're not the best PK kicker on the team.
I totally.
Hold on. How did you play both?
I Rabona'd those.
It's a spring-fall sport.
Oh, you guys are weird. See, soccer in Kansas is in the fall.
No, it's in the spring.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
I played baseball and soccer at the same time.
Oh.
So
they called Ben
dual sport.
They called Ben one hop. You know,
like why are we doing this?
You know
we got
why?
Running backs to talk about, guys.
You know why they
the one hop story?
You know why they called him one hop? Because he was catcher, and every time he tried to throw to second, he would.
Nobody called me one hop. I had a little bit difficulty with throwing the ball over the second base, and so they told me to aim for the pitcher's head and one hop the ball to the second base. I was a good catcher, but I was never good at throwing people out. I had no problems when I was in the outfield, but when I played catcher, I had that like what's that guy's name? Baker syndrome from Major League, where he had to, talk about lingerie models while he's throwing. Like when that came out, I took so much heat because I dealt with that same problem, and it was everybody's big joke. Which didn't help. I mean, I stayed after practice and worked on it and threw into garbage cans, and I mean, it just didn't do anything. Nothing helped me.
All right,
That's
we
awesome.
have so much to talk about. I don't know why we're talking about one hop.
It's almost 11 o'clock, too.
Yes. Okay. Let's move on to running backs. Expensive running backs. I talked about with Foster. We're starting to realize that his value's intertwined with Taylor Kelly. I think that's very important to monitor. It looks like Kelly's starting. If Kelly starts, Foster's value goes up. He has more value on DraftKings where he's cheaper. On FanDuel, if you're choosing him over Buck Allen, I don't know what you're thinking. What do you think, Jordan?
I prefer Foster.
Really?
Just in a vacuum, price not related. Utah's defense isn't that bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually pretty solid. And USC, Cody Kessler might just decide to throw 7 touchdowns again. You never know.
Oh.
I think Cody Kessler is actually good. I'm in the minority there. But yeah, I'd take Foster over Allen, even if I have to pay a couple extra dollars for Foster.
Natural knob block. I hate you guys. Okay, let's move on. I disagree with whatever you just said.
Thanks, Ben.
Medium tier running backs. We have Cameron Artis-Payne, who's the cover boy, and I did that on purpose because I think that this is like going to be that game for him where he could just go bonkers. He's got a nice price on FanDuel, which I think makes him almost a must play. So they are giving up 163 yards per game and 2 touchdowns to running backs. South Carolina is. Artis-Payne, in that kind of system, the way they run the ball, he should have just an unbelievable game. But I don't know about any of these other guys if you're going to be able to work them all in with Artis-Payne. But I think the Arizona backs is the touchiest situation. What do you think, Jordan? What do you think about? Would you roster Jones Grigsby or Nick Wilson? Would you roster one of those two guys?
I do not know. There's a chance they both might be out, right?
No, they're both probable to play. I was writing this up as their backup. Baker was the starting running back, and I wrote him all up, and it was just a great write-up. Oh, this guy's a great price. He's just going to be the perfect play to fill in. And then I read, right before I was press submit that they're both now probable.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a tough play. It really is.
Because Terrence Jones-Grigsby had the job, and then Nick Wilson came in, and he's like, "Oh hi, I'm good too. Give me carries." So now I don't know.
I don't think that's exactly how it went down.
It's basically the same. Yeah, that's how it went down.
Carries.
No, but Nick Wilson is good. Terrence Jones-Grigsby, I think it's going to end up being a committee between those two.
Yeah.
Now that they're both healthy, finally.
That's what it's been all year. I mean, even when they were kind of coming in and out of health and stuff. I think D Hart's the most interesting one of all these guys because if he gets the touches, he could be the best play of the whole day. Yeah. And that's the tough play because he is
incredibly explosive.
Incredibly explosive. He has a nice price on both sides.
A good matchup.
A good matchup. If you're not doing Grayson or Higgins, it's a good way to get exposure to this game without going that route. So you can sit there and root for Colorado State, who's pretty heavily favored.
And they are 18 points?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting play that I think you'd be smart to consider, especially on DraftKings where you got to work another guy in there. Okay, this is my must play, and I'll get your take on it. Jarvion Williams, who is now the starting running back for University of Texas San Antonio, is the minimum salary on DraftKings. So he's got that $3,000 price tag. Only been getting about 10, 12 touches a game. Everything you read indicates that he's going to get more touches going forward. He's little, but he's big, kind of like a bowling ball type running back. It sounds like he has speed. Very, very. They're very in love with this guy as far as his athleticism, as far as everything that I've read. I looked up a lot on him before I even put him in here, and he's just one of those guys that's going to sneak up on this game against a UTEP defense that doesn't stop anybody on the ground. If he gets the touches, Jarvion Williams is going to be the play of the day, and I don't have any doubts about it.
Yeah. 221 yards allowed from UTEP. That's ridiculously bad. And he's been even as not being the starter, he's been putting up at
That
least 7 points a game. I
that
will take.
200 that
I don't.
221 yards is that total rushing yards per game?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what they're giving up just to running back specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take 12 points out of a 3K guy any day,
hmm Yeah,
which is what
that's
he
what
did
you're
last
looking
week
at.
against Louisiana Tech with 10 carries
Good point. That's the
without
point.
scoring a touchdown.
hmm
Yeah, I did not see that when I was just first looking through everything. I'm
No,
glad
and
you
he
mentioned that because that is a
he
great play, Ben.
catches balls too.
Hmm.
So that's important to note because even if he's not getting the ground carries, if he's coming in on third downs and he's getting the catches, then that's important. And like you said, they're giving up, what'd you say, 212 yards per game on the ground?
221.
221. Well, they're giving up 152 to running back. So that means they're giving up, what's that, 60, 70 yards to other people, which I guess is wide receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And the UT San Antonio quarterback, Jamil Showers, can run the ball a little bit. So I would not be surprised to see a very effective offense running the football. And they're going to go ground heavy. The only problem with Williams is he does share carries with David Glasgow II, who came in as the starting running back this year, but he's kind of not been impressive. Williams has been impressive, and they've given him the starts. If he starts, he gets the touches. He's just an unbelievable play.
I can see that being one of those things where he scores a touchdown on the first drive, and they're just like, okay, leave him in, and then he goes for 40.
Yeah.
So I will probably be locking him into my lineups on DraftKings for the late slate.
Sorry, I got to defend my honor on chat there for a second.
Did you did you see the question about the $3,400 wide receiver late slate?
Who was the guy?
No.
They're asking about a $3,400 receiver in the late slate.
I haven't seen that at all.
That's from CB. So, who is someone that could fit that bill?
Okay.
Oh,
Who?
I'm pulling it up. I'm pulling it up right now.
Pulling what? Up?
Well, hey, you look at that, Jordan, and I'll talk about some of these other plays while you're looking that up. As far as low price guys go, you have Laka Laka again, bulk carries against Nevada's weak run defense. I think that's just an easy play if you can work him in. Derrick Henry is always going to be on these boards for me as a cheap play. And we didn't really talk about TJ Yeldon, but Yeldon scored 3 touchdowns last week and proved that this Alabama running game can be explosive if they'll actually use it. And Lane Kiffin and company, it sounds like, to me, Saban's cracked the whip on Kiffin. They looked like a completely different offense last week. So I hope that carries over against Tennessee. I'm not holding my breath,
What about
though.
Narrative Street?
Yeah, that's some Narrative Street. It really is.
People don't realize how much that Tennessee fans hate Lane Kiffin.
Oh, yeah.
I've
No, they don't. They don't. They named the sewage plant in Knoxville Lane Kiffin sewage plant. So basically,
Wow.
the treatment center for poop
That is awesome.
is the Lane Kiffin treatment center.
The Lane Kiffin Poop Treatment Center.
Yes, yes, which is just brilliant. So you got to enjoy that. And Tennessee fans see nobody who does. If people who aren't from around here don't understand Tennessee fans. They're like unlike anything else because they have an irrational thought of Tennessee built up from the 90s, from Peyton Manning and from, even I guess a little bit before that. They think that they are a top 5 program in the country, but they haven't been that
dumb.
in 15 years. But okay, let's look at some wide receivers. Did you get anybody that you like in that range?
Yeah, I found one I don't hate. Scott Harding for Hawaii. He's 3,300. Nevada's giving up over 300 yards per game through the air. He's only caught 2 touchdowns this year. They came in the same game. That happened to be a game he went for over 20 points. But his last 3 games, he's caught 4, 3, and 4 passes. I don't know. He's not going to get... He probably won't go for 22, but I could see him possibly catching another touchdown this week against Nevada. I always like, for some apparent reason, having the late game exposure because I feel like my teams can just like rally and win a GPP for me or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that feeling of having the super late guys playing. But Harding is 3,300.
Yeah,
I don't know. He
I'm
could fill that
looking.
void.
I'm looking it over right now, and I don't think you're going to be able to to go cheaper than like the 3,800 range, which is probably why I didn't rank anybody. I'm looking it over. I mean, you
Marquez
can
North
go.
is also super cheap, but he's
Yeah,
against
you can.
Alabama.
You can go with North against Alabama. I think that's where you need to go.
Alabama's good.
No.
Good.
Dude, we just talked about it though.
Yeah.
If they're desperate, and this is where you have to go, that's where you're going to have to go. Or you could go take a shot in the dark with one of the Ohio State receivers against like the best defense in the country in Penn State.
I'd rather have Harding against like one of the worst pass defenses in the country.
Yeah, I don't see a lot. I'm scrolling through it. I'm down in the 3,000 range, and there's nobody popping out. I did this the last time when I was writing it up, and there was nobody popping out that I say, this guy deserves to be written up. This guy is somebody that can put up a good amount of points. So if somebody sees one that's in chat that thinks it should be pointed out, then go for it, because we're all here helping each other out. But let's move on to
there was an answer in chat.
What?
Someone did answer with Stephen Ishmael as a GPP play.
Yeah. I like that. The fellow freshman with AJ Long for Syracuse. So yeah, that's a nice play. I haven't really stumbled upon him. They seem to have a lot of good chemistry together. They both kind of earned their starting roles at the same time. Hunt went down, so that's why Long's getting starts, but Ishmael's getting starts because he earned it. So that's a good play. If you're going to have to do it, that would be where I would go to. So good call.
I can get behind that too.
Yeah, shout out to BM Joe Dewin.
Oh yeah, he's a smart dude. He's on top of it. He contacts me constantly on Twitter and stuff, and he's totally
that's why he's a smart guy, right?
I enjoy talking to him.
We're rubbing off on him
constantly.
No, he's one of those guys that does research way before he ever comes to talk to you, and then it's this is a guy I'm looking at. What do you think?
Yep.
There are other people that ask us questions that we answer in cheat sheets and in articles, which is a little bit more difficult to answer those questions.
We had a Centarius Donald question.
I'd like him. I put him in the cheat sheets. I don't think Ben wrote him up.
I didn't.
I think he's a good play. He's incredibly cheap. He has a fantastic matchup. It's just in this late slate with all of the expensive Washington State and Arizona guys that you want to play, you're going to have to find value somewhere, and Centarius Donald could be that. He hasn't been a workhorse back by any means the last couple weeks, and he hasn't done a whole lot with his production.
You're inspiring a lot of confidence there, Jordan.
No, but Texas State is giving up, a lot. 225 yards on the ground. They're the 14th worst rush defense in the country, and Donald has the talent to be able to produce. He went for 32 points against Idaho, who isn't a whole lot better than Texas State. So they've also played defenses like LSU, Wake Forest. Those are decent defenses. He didn't do much against Troy, which is kind of frustrating, but I'd risk it.
Yeah, he's unimpressive to me. I liked him early in the season when I probably got a little lucky when I called him for Idaho. But that was just simply a play against Idaho. So if you're picking him, you're playing against Texas State. You're not playing because Donald's good, because he's not.
I think it's a solid play. He's not going to go for 32 like he did against Idaho, but he might get you your 70 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. And for 4,900, that's not a bad play.
He would see 4,400. I'd rather see you do Henry or
I probably wouldn't pay for that price on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, where he's 400 above minimum, I don't hate it.
4,900. Yeah, that's more. You're right. But Laka 5,000 on FanDuel, so you're choosing him over Laka pretty much.
Laka also isn't getting a whole lot of carries either.
What are you talking about? He's gotten 16, 22, 22 over his last 3. Now, he's not doing anything with the carries, but they played some tougher defense.
Yeah.
Nevada's not the same kind of defense they've played up to now.
No, I'm on Laka too. I like that.
No. All right.
Carries, though. I didn't see that.
Let's talk about these wide receivers a little bit. Pretty cut and dry. Washington State, Arizona receivers, whatever you can get in, whoever you like, do it.
River Crackraft.
Gosh, you're a crackhead.
I am. I love that dude so much. I've only watched him play one time, and I'm just like the biggest fanboy ever.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of targets.
He produces. That's all there is to it.
Did you see that I
think
pointed
he's
out?
the safest. Other than Vince Mail, he and Vince Mail, they're similarly priced. They have similar production, but I think Craft is more of a or Craft or however you say it he's going to catch more passes
They, they
overall.
they have three. I pointed this out in the article. They have 3 wide receivers in the top 9 of targets.
Yeah.
In the
That's
country.
because they throw the ball 4,000 times a game.
I know, that's awesome. And I think if you can go down to like the 15th or 16th or something, you get 4 because then Dom Williams comes into play as a lower. Which to me, Dom Williams is a way to get a little bit cheaper exposure, and he has good games pretty much every single game. He just doesn't get quite the touches.
Touchdowns.
His ceiling isn't quite as high as these other guys just because he's not getting the ball. He does get touchdowns. He has 6. But
4.
he did them in 3 games.
No, I'm thinking of Isaiah Myers.
Isaiah Myers is the guy that I thought was going to
him.
bounce back, and he's fallen off, and he just hasn't really
him.
ever come back. Now we say that he's going to be the guy that has the 200-yard 14 match game. But like, it's a pretty much a roll of the dice for any of those guys, though. However, you're going to get exposure, you're going to have to roll the dice, figure out which one is the one.
I will say this: I will probably make a GPP lineup with Halliday, Mail, and Craft.
You will not.
No, bad boy.
You're so crazy. You are really crazy. Do you know
I
that?
am just on the edge.
Oh gosh.
Well, I go on. If you go down, in my rankings, I go on to rank both the Monroe wide receivers. I don't recommend rostering both of those guys, but pick one, and I don't have a problem with rostering one of the two. And I kind of detail in the article why I like one over the other or whatever. But what do you think, Jordan? What do you think about Mike Williams without Deshaun Watson against Syracuse at home? He had 128 yards last week. But Stout, he's definitely a different player when Stout's throwing him the ball.
Yeah. I was playing around with lineups earlier, and Mike Williams did end up. It was a GPP lineup, so I was targeting for the 30-point upside that he has. I mean, last week he caught 8 passes for 128 yards against Boston College. So I think Stout will get him the ball enough, and Syracuse is bad enough that Mike Williams could have a good game. But I don't know if I would trust it in cash for that price. Okay. I think he's 6,300 on FanDuel.
Fair enough.
I'd rather have Dom Williams for 6,000.
Yeah, I completely agree. But if you're overexposing yourself for a cash game play and you want to just loosen it up just a little bit, not have too much Arizona Washington State, then Mike Williams becomes a little bit.
I don't think you have to worry about Jordan overexposing himself.
Yes, true.
Unless.
I'm not going to take my shirt off.
Okay.
Okay. With the low-priced receivers, I think Treadwell comes in as a really cheap option on DraftKings at 3,900. If you're scraping the barrel for a 3,400 receiver, you might as well try to get up to one of these other options at 37, 38, 39 that are better. I wouldn't put myself out there at the 3K range. I'd rather get another guy. I think that there's just not that kind of level of guys down there. You're probably going to have to figure it out with your running backs, I'm afraid. I don't know. I'll have to fiddle with it a little bit more to have some more accurate knowledge. If you have any questions, you can hit up me or Jordan on Twitter. I'm at Natural Slugger. Jordan, what's your Twitter handle? Is it at JCase1? Is that what it is?
The Jordan Case.
The Jordan Case.
Oh, okay. Yep.
There's a U in it.
The Jordan Case with the U in the Jordan. So not like Michael. All right. So let's do tight ends. Don't like any high price guys. I think you're punting the position again. Jordan, you see anybody that pops out of that you like?
In the late slate, no.
Okay, so just throw in Evan Ingram, Bradley Miller, Walker.
Yeah, Ben hit on all the guys that are in play, I think.
He always does.
Yeah, I hit on all kinds of guys.
All kinds of guys.
We
have a question in the chat from, I don't know if we should answer it because it's from Kyle, but he wants to know about Taylor Kelly.
Taylor Kelly. Gosh, guys. That's one where you'd be going out on a limb playing Taylor Kelly just because we got a guy coming back. He's got a backup that was just really good while he was gone. So there's like an element of nervousness with playing him because if he does bad at the beginning or shows some wear from the injuries, he could get yanked real quickly.
I don't know if I actually heard this or if I made this up in my head, but I feel like he's splitting time with
No, he was split.
or whatever.
He was supposed to split time last week, and he just didn't play.
Okay, that's what it was.
Berkovicki, I don't even know how to say it either. I haven't watched him play yet.
It's Berkovicki.
Berkovicki.
Yeah,
that's a terrible name.
He doesn't know. He's just making that up. Berkovicki is a good player. I mean, he's proved himself, and apparently is going to press Taylor Kelly now for the rest of the season if Taylor Kelly sucks. And Taylor Kelly was doing good, so it's interesting. I don't know if I'd do it, but I understand if you're trying to save money to do it. But
we also got a question about Rayshon Caesar. I think you wrote him up, didn't you?
Yeah, he's one of the Monroe wide receivers I was talking about. He's becoming back to being their number one guy, which most people thought he was going to be the number one guy going into the season, and Holly kind of took over that role after Caesar got injured and struggled through some injuries and stuff. I think Caesar played through him for the most part, but now he's starting to get the targets and the catches and stuff, so it looks like he's getting healthier. So he's a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to play.
Yeah.
So they're wanting the EPL hot takes. You know what? This is the college
I don't have
football.
any. I haven't looked at anything, and I never have any anyway. So
I'll have to pull it up. I know you carry us here for a second, Jordan. You talk about what you love about Davis some more. About how he's helping you with your life and how he's helping
more
you
Davis hot takes.
More Davis hot takes.
I don't want to give. We should get a petition to make Davis cut his hair. That should be a thing.
All we have to do is talk to his girlfriend.
She likes his hair.
She might just be saying that.
I don't know. Do we have any other questions in the chat? I don't think so.
Yeah.
People just want EPL takes, Ben.
You're catching me a little bit unprepared for EPL hot takes. I know that might disappoint the three people that care about that. But
this is why Davis needs to be here because he's always prepared for this.
No, Davis said he's not playing anything this week, which I think is a lie.
It's definitely a lie.
Except for NFL.
Yeah, this is what he said like in pre-show today. He's like, "Oh man, Kyrie Robinson's not playing. I wish I could play NFL on Sunday." And I was like, okay, that can't be the reason why you're not playing NFL on Sunday.
No, he told me that his girlfriend has to leave to go to forensics or something at 4 a.m. So he's just going to get up and come back to Slime to Manhattan at 4 a.m. He said he'll be back here before I wake up on Sunday morning, which is just...
He is adorable. He really is.
He is ridiculous.
I will say one thing as it pertains to the EPL hot takes. I was very disappointed to see the split slates this weekend with only 5 games on Saturday because I was really hoping the Tottenham game would be included because I think with Newcastle has like all 3 strikers in doubt. So you're looking at a Tottenham defense that's pretty active offensively and Hugo Lloris, who's just awesome goalkeeper for France. So I was really looking forward to playing them, but on a 3-game slate on Sunday, I don't know if that's really going to be possible. So I don't know if that hot take helps you out very much. But it was definitely a big disappointment for me as I was as I was starting to think about it, because that was the first thing I looked at was, okay, when does Tottenham play? But looking over it really quickly, I think you're going to see the whole city's got some injuries up front. Abel Hernandez is going to start. Jelovic's out. You can figure that out real quick. The West Brom team, all the West Brom options are in play.
Yeah, you got to go with West Brom.
Well, yeah, all of them.
Ben.
They're all scoring. Sacco, Barino, they're all doing really well. Southampton's the most electrifying team in.
Yeah, they're also a huge favorite, as is Liverpool.
Favorite. Liverpool's a little bit more touch and go. I hope they don't start.
They're playing terrible.
I was talking to Ron W on Twitter. I don't know much about him, but we sometimes go back and forth. He's a Liverpool fan. I'm kind of a Liverpool fan. And we were talking about the possibilities of what could happen with that team if they could just get Balotelli out of the lineup, which is going to happen very soon, and it could happen this weekend.
Balotelli is just so good at soccer.
You are such an idiot.
No, he is good.
No, zip it, Jordan.
Right now,
David,
his last few games, he hasn't been bad. Don't mute me, David. Let me argue with Ben.
Argue away.
No, Balotelli is awful. He's so bad. He is such a bad. He's a cancer. He's like the worst.
He's a cancer.
No, he's not just. He's like a mass on your face. It's like just a guy that you just have to get rid of, or you're never gonna find a girl, and they're never gonna be any good. And it's just one of those things where he has to go to the bench. They need to go with Barini. They need to go with a false nine who Ron brought up, which I think is a brilliant idea, to go with a false nine where you use Sterling as like a midfield striker option. And that's what a false nine is. You don't have a striker. Yeah. And just work it that way and work Lallana into the lineup because Lallana's work rate's just incredible. He plays hard. Balotelli plays like a little girl. He's just terrible. He pouts. He misses shots, wide open shots. If you watch any of their games lately, it's just been just terrible. He's had multiple opportunities to score and he's done nothing. And he doesn't do anything to help anybody around him. So that's why he got benched. He got benched at halftime because he traded his jersey going in for halftime, which I think is awesome in one way because that's pretty much something like Davis would do. Going into halftime in the middle of a game, take off your jersey and switch it with another player.
That's what I would do.
Here's my soccer hot take. Play Liverpool because they're a big favorite. Play Southampton because they're a big favorite. Arsenal's an okay play because they're favored. Listen to Vegas. That's what I do.
Arsenal
every sport.
Arsenal at Sunderland is going to be the best play just because you're talking about a team that just got the crap kicked out of them. And so I think Arsenal would be
one of the few games that the over is favored.
Yeah, which makes sense because you're dealing with a team. Now, Arsenal's defense and goalkeeper situation's a little messy, but
a little messy.
Nice.
But when it comes to like Sanchez and Welbeck and all those guys, they're always in play for Arsenal. Now, here's the thing with Arsenal: Theo Walcott made the trip, could play. So you're talking about that guy. Not really a deal though. 8,500. He's not really. You're not really getting him at a bonus or any kind of steal.
I have a question for you, Ben.
What?
I haven't watched Arsenal since I was in high school, but I've played with him on FIFA. And
Did you just say washed?
I said watched.
Okay. Go ahead.
Since I was in high school, I play with him on FIFA quite a bit because they have a lot of fast players, and that's what I like. Do they really not make any runs at all? Do they score all their goals off of set pieces?
Are you talking? You said Arsenal?
Yes, because they are so annoying because they do not move. Do they really score all of their goals off of set pieces?
Well, they're built to run through. They are building to run through Ozil, who's out, which is now Santi Cazorla, which Cazorla is good, and it's good to see him run as the 10, which in soccer, for those who don't know, the 10's the guy that sets up everybody else. Very important player. You saw how important that guy can be, like in the Atletico Madrid game for in the Champions League this week. You saw Koke, who is the number 10 for Atletico Madrid. I mean, he had like 3 or 4 assists and had a goal. I mean, those guys can just take over games if they're on top of it. If they're not getting shut down. And Cazorla is a good option. But like you said, they are getting a lot of scores out of set pieces, which isn't good. But I just think they're not playing very well as a team overall. Welbeck's doing good. I like Welbeck a lot. He needs to get it back together. And I'm a huge Sanchez fan, just going back into the World Cup. So that didn't answer your question at all. I think I just bounced around it. But that's simply because I don't really have an answer for you. I don't know what their strategy is at the moment, just because they have dealt with so many injuries and so many other issues with their team that they started the season with.
I'm so mad at DraftKings for making soccer like cool.
No, soccer is awesome. I wish I would have kept. I followed it really closely in high school, and I wish I would have kept that up, so I would know what's going on for.
Jordan, you do know there was a point before last year or maybe over a year ago where David said to me, he said, Ben, you're going to have to give up soccer because we need you to focus more on other sports. He really said that. He said it doesn't matter. Soccer doesn't matter. And I said I'm going to keep following it, David, and it paid off.
And here we are.
Here we are, and it's
started from the bottom. Now we here.
that is right. I don't know. I'm looking it over some more. I wish I had more of a hot takes for you guys. I was so concerned with getting the college football stuff done that I didn't really look at this slate too much. But I will do that after we're off air and make me a killer team or something.
Oh yeah, cool.
Feel free to post that in the Skype chat, Ben.
Sure.
All right, guys. That will do it for today's college football show. Thanks to Jordan Case and Benjamin Pritchett, aka One Hop, for. Did you just throw the ball?
Yeah.
That's a new Twitter handle.
Well, I just scooped it out of the dirt. And here, tomorrow, we will not have any shows. Sunday, though, we'll have the 12 Eastern show to answer questions for you guys. Tomorrow starts an epic run of daily fantasy. November is going to be crazy.
Cannot wait for basketball.
Yeah, basketball. If you missed it earlier today, Scott Malwig at sports_25 to life is going to be one of the contributors, which is huge.
Oh, sweet.
Because Scott was the one guy that I follow. Like, Scott was the first article that I ever read portraying the DFS. Like, I don't think I've ever missed a Scott Malwig article. So, it's pretty cool to have him part of the NBA content team. And then, it's just going to be crazy busy. If you're a subscriber, just know that these two Yahoos will be getting rankings done, and I'll be sending out the email with the PDF. And that will definitely be a thing. So on behalf of Benjamin, Jordan, and myself, I think that will do it, guys, right?
Yep.
Jordan, is that vent broken above you?
Yeah, that's Davis's. I'm in Davis's room because I don't have a desk in my room.
Is it hot in there?
No, it's not, Ben. David, god damn it.
It's not hot?
I've mixed up your names like 3 times now for some reason.
Well, it's probably because you're all hot and bothered.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
Okay, well, if you're not going to take your shirt off, then we will just go ahead and sign off. So until next Friday night, we will keep the college football hot takes to ourselves, right?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, go Royals. Cheer 'em on. Team of Destiny. Black. Nope.
Yeah, it's off.
Damn it.